back to the Indie Magazine Podcast. Today we're recapping the newest season of The Bear and some of the new season of The Boys. Hope you enjoy. There's a bunch of things I could talk about. For the sake of time, let's really quickly go into The Bear Season 3, The Boys Season 4. Let's talk about The Bear Season 3. Did you like The Bear before the season?
Yes, so I watched season 1 and 2, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it was so stressful to watch that I was like, I don't know if I can keep watching this, before I realized, if I just look at my phone while I'm watching this, it cuts the tension and I can watch the entire thing.
Yeah.
But season 2 I thought was really well done, especially the episode Forks where cousin goes to the restaurant and
oh my gosh,
turns his life around, and I just thought that was so well done. Yeah, so I did watch all of season 3 in a week.
Yeah, I binged it pretty fast too. First off, let's talk about other critics and reviewers. People hate this season. If you only follow the top 10, 15 magazines, everyone is just saying, stupid, unnecessary, doesn't go anywhere, boring, lost its spark, whatever. At least for me, knowing they shot season 3 and 4 back to back colors it a little bit differently. Because not that it felt like a half-baked story. It does at some moments, but not the whole season. To me, it was just more of the same. We're setting a stage. This is all about this internal struggle going on with all these characters and their struggles. Okay, the next season we're going to have more payoff. At least that's how I took it. But I still enjoyed it. I don't think it was terrible. I don't think it was as good as season 2. It wasn't nail-biting for me the whole time.
No, I would agree. I think, this kind of commits one of my cardinal sins of TV and movie making, which is all setup and no payoff. That's why I didn't like Severance at all, was because it was just nothing but setup, and then they ended the season without giving you anything. It was just a cliffhanger. But this one wasn't quite as egregious as that, because I think we as an audience were hoping that the story was going to go somewhere, and the story just didn't go where we wanted it to go. And so it's a mismatch between expectations, because I think what we as an audience were hoping was, it was he's gonna reconcile with Claire. he's gonna have his comeuppance, and he's gonna grow. But that's just not what the story was about. The story was about the restaurant and about the pressure of greatness and about whether or not it's worth it, with some really great character driven episodes along the way. I thought the episode with his sister having the baby with the mom in the room, I thought that was beautifully well done.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis does a great job at being this really manic and unhinged mom of this family who just brings nothing but stress. And when she's the only one who comes for the baby, the sister having the baby, you're at the beginning, you're like, oh no, this is going to be nothing but bad. And then they show that it's just nothing. She's bringing nothing but stress to her daughter. Yeah. But then over the course of the episode, her mom is able to relax into the process, and she's able to trust her mom. And it's actually beautiful. I thought that episode was really well done. I thought the episode with, I don't know any of the characters' names, but the Hispanic lady who was looking for a job the entire time, and then had had a very human conversation with John Bernthal's character. I don't know any of their names.
Tina Marrero.
Tina had a conversation with John Bernthal's character where he hires her to work at the beef, the original Chicago beef restaurant. And I thought that was a great episode. And that one was, I think, directed by Io DeBerry. And so I think there was a lot of really beautiful character moments throughout the season. And especially episode 1, I thought that one was a beautiful. It was a very artistic montage with great background music where it's very impressionistic. You're getting across a feeling rather than the details of the story. And I think that's, maybe why people don't like season 3 quite as much, is because it's impressionistic. Yeah. It's not as detailed as some of as some other TV shows are, or even as detailed as past episodes of this series have been. It's more concerned about getting across a feeling than it is about giving you the details.
I would say they take bigger swings this season in potentially, and proving that they did, alienating the audience and just saying it's a visual medium and format, and you're just going to sit back. We've got you. You're on the third season. Buckle up. Here's what we want to do. I watched the first episode. I thought it was beautiful, but it also was not like a plot or story driven, moving our arc along. It was like, I don't know, we're just going to do something. So sit around and watch. I enjoy that sometimes. I know I was watching with my fiance. She did not like that. She was like, that was dumb. To each their own. Sometimes if you want the story and the plot driven forward, that doesn't do anything for you. So it really depends on your taste. I will say, yeah, the more that I love that we still get to see John Bernthal as Mikey throughout the seasons, because I had figured, especially after last season, we know what happened to him. We figure we know what happened, why he's gone, why he died, and yet we still get little pieces that kind of bring back why is Carmy so addicted to his legacy and his story while also struggling with all these different expectations. I know for me, I really love seeing more and more of Joel McHale as the asshole restaurateur. Yeah. He is so good as like an evil, scary guy.
Yeah.
And his Community money really worked because his hair plugs look so realistic. I was like, this man was bald 10 years ago. I'm like, his plugs look really great. But yeah, the funeral for Olivia Colman's restaurant was a good episode. And I thought it was really nice to see all the chefs at the end at Io Berry's apartment eating like real chefs talk about eating. You cook this fancy ass meal at the restaurant, but when you go home, it's like, we're going to throw a microwave pizza in. I'm going to put fresh basil on it. We're going to have just like junk chips, and we're going to somehow do up a sauce. And I thought it was really fun. I was like, this is nice to see this other side of like the fancy chef life.
Yeah, I did like that last episode, but like, to the point of like feeling like it's spinning its wheels and not going anywhere. I feel like they spent a lot of time on like who I can only assume are real life chefs talking with each other and talking with the characters about their stuff. And it just is like, it had nothing to do with what we wanted, what we cared about. What we cared about was Carmy, his relationship with his old boss, Carmy, his relationship with Claire, or with Sydney. It didn't have anything to do with Sid, reluctance to sign the contract or to, go to the new restaurant or whatever. Like it was just spinning its wheels, and it was a little self-referential maybe.
Yeah, I can get with that.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say, agreeing with you on that point. This season felt like what a 24 episode season of old TV, old being mid 2000s, would have been. If you would have had 24 episodes and you just had season 3 and 4 straight of the bear, this would have felt fine. But to your point, the stakes are higher, and it's hard when you get one season per year to 3 years, because you're like, hey, the story does matter. We don't have 3 years to wait and then be like, oh, we'll pick back up. So yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, and especially when there's only like 8 to 10 episodes of the season, and then you're using your episodes to tell like really singular stories of individual characters without addressing the larger plot going around. Like we don't have time for filler.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just like, a problem of the audience, a problem of our expectations, where maybe we should have time for filler. Maybe we should maybe it's okay that something is just filler.
Yeah, it's hard with expectations. It definitely is, to figure out what the right balance is. Did you like Master of None?
I never watched it.
Oh my God. Okay, we're going to have to do a rewatch of that, because that show is fantastic start to finish. But it is 10 episodes at about a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes apiece for 2 seasons. The third season, I think, is only 5 episodes shorter. And they came out every 2 years, but there were whole filler episodes of we're just going to follow one character and get really deep on a character. And yet it felt like it worked. So I do feel like sometimes I feel like Master of None, Atlanta, and Dave all kind of set this precedent. And I throw Rami in there too, of exactly what we're hoping for. Emotional, half hour to 45 minutes, some of these specific character episodes. But I will agree, I don't think The Bear Season 3 paid off as well as some of the other shows did. of hitting every touch point. So we'll.
As we're talking about this, I'm thinking like, maybe the metaphor of the menu in their restaurant and how they were coming up with a new menu every day is itself a metaphor for the show. The pressure to come up with something new all the time instead of having like a baseline regular creates the circumstances in which you dilute the goodness that you could potentially get.
That's such a good observation.
And so it's like the show is telling us, look, we know what the problem is, but we can't fix it yet.
Go back to what works. Wow. Can't remember what worked.
Yeah. It's like in The Fall Guy, where in the first act, they're like, what if we're having a hard time putting the third act together? So what if this crazy thing happened? And then it's like, I wonder if that's them telling us that they didn't really have a good idea of what they were going to do for Act 3.
Yeah, that explains what happened with The Bear season 3. It is something different every day. Following the facts around and some of the celebrity cameos that we won't spoil, but were great. I was just like, what's he doing here? What's he doing here? It is something different every day. It makes me wonder what season 4 is going to be like, since they did shoot it back to back, and how long we're going to have to wait. Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 2 years?
Could you imagine waiting 2 years?
Yeah. For all the good that is there with streaming, the fear in these little executives' shaky knees is just the worst. They used to just greenlight a show for 4 to 5 seasons if someone liked the first 5 episodes. They were like, cool, book it. We've got the next 5 years of programming. Write the story, just go. It's sad now that everyone's like, here's 8 to 10 episodes. Did it do well? Did you get an award? Okay, start writing the next one. No. If we had it back-to-back, year-to-year, or spring and fall, we would be doing so much better, I think.
Yeah, even, in the show, who's the guy who's funding the entire thing? He tells Carmi, he's like, one bad review and we're done.
Yeah, Uncle Jimmy.
Because I need to get my money back. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I think that's a metaphor. I think what they're saying is that like this show has to be so good or else the plug's going to get pulled on it.
Yeah. Did you ever watch The Last Man on Earth?
I did, yeah.
Love that show. I thought it was great. The fact that it finished without finishing still hurts. I'm like, oh, why? But it was one of those situations of, a couple bad reviews. Oh, the season dipped, plug is pulled, and then we just have it left hanging. If this show finished with its 3rd season and we don't get a 4th one, even though it's already been shot, that would be heartbreaking.
Yeah, it would. Let's not put any ideas into executive minds.
No, they have enough bad ideas. Okay, speaking of which, let's talk about The Boys season 4 really quick.
The Boys. What do you think?
The Boys. Okay, I know a lot of people hate The Boys. I know a lot of people are sick of The Boys. I still like it, but this season was rough at parts. And it was so gratuitous and gory and sexual that I was like, oh man, I am not a Bible-clutching conservative, but I can see why these people are so shocked by it for more than one reason. I still like it. I like where the characters are going in certain respects. I want to see what happens with season 5. Now I'm like, similarly, let's wrap it up. But I don't know that I loved as much as season 3. Maybe for the best. It needs to have a dip before the finale. But yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, I would say the same. I think my problem is more of just like, that thing where you get a year or 2 between seasons. It's hard to remember the entirety of the story, and it's like, has this not been resolved yet?
Yeah.
How has Homelander not just like killed these guys? Like they're just a bunch of mortals fighting a god. Like how is this still going on? And I did think, especially this most recent episode, I think had some really high points, some really dark points, and then some like needlessly gratuitous stuff. I think I need to see the remainder of the season before I really make a judgment on this. But I don't like when sexual assault is played for laughs.
Yeah.
Especially the assault of men, because the pain of men is always played for laughs in Hollywood. It's never serious. And so there was a glimmer of hope at the end where he broke down. He's like, yeah, I am not okay. And I was like, my first reaction was, oh, this is silly. But then I was like, no, actually, I think they're going to take this seriously. I think this is going to be a serious plot point. But then the dark part of the episode was like Homelander and Victoria Newman in that party trying to get all the conservative people on board, essentially like saying the quiet part out loud of what's actually happening in the world right now was very chilling because it just hit a little too close to home. But then it was nice to have kind of the payoff of with Butcher's guy that he's been seeing as like, oh, he's a hallucination. We knew all along, but it was good to have it paid off.
Yeah, I was wondering how long we were going to let that sit of like, okay, Jeffrey Dean Morgan has never showed up before now. When he was announced, I was like, who is this guy? Who is he going to even be playing? And from the early episodes, there are some key clues as to, oh, he's an illusion. He's a vision. I thought it was nice the way they paid it off. I liked the inclusion of the Gen V storyline. At first, it felt a little throwaway. Then, like later, I was like, okay, now it's a little better and fleshed out. I think, like we were talking about, though, Boys Season 1, 2019, Season 2, 2020, Season 3, 2022, hashtag pandemic. Now here we are in 2024. And so there's been 2 years since Season 3, but yeah, so many years in between. I've stopped caring about some people. I'm like, why do I care about the Deep's not interesting this season?
No.
What's he doing? Okay, the octopus is still there. I thought he ate the octopus. Okay, whatever.
Right.
To finally see Black Mar unmasked, I was like, cool, whatever. He's an actor replacing him. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. It just was there's a lot of things going on that I'm wondering, how are you going to wrap this up? Why is it important?
I do think they're doing a good job with A-Train.
Yeah, his story's the most interesting.
Him. Yeah, it's the most interesting right now, where he's like, oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by sycophants and idiots, and I need to like do something with my legacy.
Which I think is great, because I think he was a shining star from the first season. I was like, this guy is a fantastic actor. Really love where he's going. I will say, it's always been thinly veiled what Homelander represents in my mind as far as conservative crazies or whatever else, patriots that are really just out here being absolutely insane. I don't know why this season has so much more hate. Yes, he goes on trial. Yes, there was just a Trump trial, but I don't see how much past that. I'm like, it's always been this blatant. What's the big rush now? What's the big worry now?
I just think that it's so obvious now that people who are watching it are now realizing that we've been making fun of them the entire time. Whereas before, it was just thinly veiled enough that they didn't get it.
Yeah. I have friends that we both know that have texted saying, no way I'm watching this woke garbage.
Really?
But were you watching the woke garbage before? Have you paid attention to what the show's doing at all?
Oh my gosh.
I just don't know. And here's the other part that kills me. It's not like this came out of nowhere. It's been like this in the comics. There is previous IP that clearly states, here's what's going on. It reminds me when people got so mad about the Watchmen TV series and what it was trying to say. And I'm like, did you watch the movie? Do you have any idea what the graphic novels are about? The story is absolute power corrupts absolutely, and people with power are usually assholes. Yeah. I don't think the boys should be surprising anybody, but here we are, surprising everybody.
I'll tell you what, we live in a world where I don't think that people really grasp that the desire for power is enough to corrupt you, and enough people want power that they don't want to believe that. And so every time it's portrayed in movies and TV, it's assaulting to their ego, and they don't want to believe it. So they're just like, this is trash.
Yeah. It's special to watch in real time and go, wait, we just had the Supreme Court say what last week? Oh, okay, it's not that far. It becomes less fun, I think, in some ways of like,
yes,
it's not sci-fi fantasy, it's reality thinly veiled. Yeah. Ouch.
Did you ever watch Man in the High Castle?
Loved it.
When they finished up the series, they wrapped it up quicker than I think they had originally intended. But I think I read that they wrapped it up because telling stories about Nazis being in control was now too close to reality, and they just didn't want to feed energy into that anymore. And I'm like, whoa, that's really like prescient.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe the boys needs to take a page out of that playbook and be like, this is too close to home right now. Might be fun in like 10 years, but not right now.
No, not when that guy's about to get elected again.
Yeah.
Ashley Barrett, played by Colby Minifie, does such a good job of just being this crazy secret dominatrix, struggling with Homelander, being on the bad guy's side, but also believing she's like good and powerful, then having no power. Because watching it, I'm like, this woman is like a fantastic just example of what I think a lot of just not just conservative, but patriotic and nationalistic idealists are, of believing you're in power until the person in power puts you in your check and says, no, you're also below me. I like her character arc this season of just, trying to work around it, tearing up her resume, trying not to get killed, but also just being fed up with the bullshit, which I hope we see more of in our own world soon.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice? That's a very depressing way to end the episode. So let's just wrap up one more thing. Billy the Butcher, can you just give me a prediction? Does he die end of this season? Does he die end of next season? When does he go? He has to go soon.
Yeah, no, he's got to go soon. I don't think he dies at the end of this season. I think him and Homelander have got a lot more beef, and they haven't like interacted much this season at all. So I think his story is going into next season for sure. And because they got to conclude, and his whole thing is I've got to find a way to kill Homelander. And you can see him flirting with an idea of like, maybe we got to find a way to kill Homelander that accidentally kills every other super person out there. And so clearly his thing is, I need to choose between my desire to kill Homelander and my desire to save my son. That's his thing. And I think that's going to go into the next season.
Yeah, I liked the fact they were like, do we use Ryan to kill Homelander? And he flirted with that idea for a moment, then that went away. Him killing the pastor was great. They cut away, and the next thing we see is just a huge bunch of blood everywhere. We have no idea what happened. That seems scary and dark. He's really, truly becoming the monster as we're watching the season go.
Yeah.
But I like it. And I liked Erin Moriarty as, Starlight having to reckon with her own past and problems. And they didn't push it away. They were like, no, it is part of who I am. Yikes, I can apologize, but also it still is here. I thought it was a little bit nice. A little on the nose, but still.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see where the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, we'll have to wrap it up before the end. And I still do want to find someone to talk to us about masculinity and the boys and how they connect.
That'd be great. I would love to have that conversation.
Still going to reach out, yeah. Find some good professors. I have someone I know who does more women's studies than I think could talk about critical theory and masculinity, but ideas for another day. Thanks again for listening this week, and we'll catch up again soon with another interview and another episode from our Aliens in America series. Until then, watch good movies and TV.